with Maverick and with Nitro, like it was like there are so many details that I learned about marketing, being on that amazing team, and like, oh yeah, that matters. That little piece matters. Make sure that's included in there. Like whether it's the graphic or the what is that user experience like?
Hello and welcome to the Hyperactive Productivity Disorder. It's a podcast with ADD. You see, I can't focus on just one topic, so I'm exploring my favorite outliers of performance, branding, and creativity. And if you're driven for personal and professional improvement, you hate wasting time and can't sit still, you, my friend, also suffer from HPD, Hyperactive Productivity Disorder. But that's a good thing because the world depends on people like us for progress. So let's get to work. At the time, I was leading the marketing department for a convenience store chain called Maverick. And the executives decided that they were going to put together a ACH card, a debit card that could only be used at Maverick, and they would tie it into their loyalty platform. And we were going to call it the Nitro card. Okay. This would give the user additional benefits, points, whatever, right? So oftentimes in marketing and advertising, you'll try to find a spokesperson or a host to introduce those benefits to the customer. You see this with Progressive. They've got Flow. You've got the most interesting man in the world, the old Dos Equis dude. And so I actually did a whole bunch of casting to try to find this right adventure-looking guy that would come across as fun, relatable, personable. And I probably auditioned probably 30 different people and couldn't find kind of the right fit. I was talking to a friend of mine who actually knew you, and he was probably better friends and closer friends to you than me, but I was telling him what I was doing. He goes, dude, you got to meet Ty Rogalski. I'm like, well, tell me who he is. He's a night manager for one of your competitors down in Utah Valley. And I'm like, if you're telling me I should meet with him, I should meet with him. And when I first met Ty, it was like he had such charisma and such a fun personality. And then the stories I heard about what crazy stuff he did, which you'll get into, I'm going to ask you specifically what those things are. But I decided, let's give this a shot. I pitched the idea to Ty. I said, look, I need you to be this Nitro type character. Now at the time, I'm going to see if I can pull up this image. Okay. Let me share my screen here, because you guys will think this is pretty funny. Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. Can you see that? All right. So you can see here's a profile. We actually took him to a hairdresser, and he's got this, he grows a beard in a day, and he's got this medium brown colored hair. And I want him to have this like sharper kind of a look. And so I said, let's give him a trim and let's dye his beard and hair. I wanted to kind of see what he looked like. So this was a transformation. This is before, and this is after. And then when he finally kind of got into character a little bit, this became his character. And what I was trying to get after was the baby of Bear Grylls and the most interesting man in the world. And Ty did it better than I thought. And so not only was he the spokesperson for advertising like this, but he was also like, he actually got to meet, you became pretty good friends with Chuck Norris.
Yep.
You and Angie been down to their place in Navasota, right?
Yeah, a couple of times we've been down there. So good dude. Actually,
yeah.
That's the thing. What's the craziest thing about Chuck Norris is out of all the celebrities I met in this kind of cool gig, he was like the most real out of all of them, which you would think he could have been the most ridiculous, right? Because it's Chuck Norris, but he was just the most down to earth, cool dude. So, yeah.
And so Ty ended up becoming Nitro. And we learned pretty soon that role wasn't something that you could just turn off at the end of the day. Like I remember you came to me. I'm going to stop sharing real quick. On the way home, Nitro, I'm going to call you Nitro for a while. Nitro would actually he didn't stop his job at when he left the office. And oftentimes, like, is best served not being in the office. He was an ambassador for the brand. And so he would go and stop at stores along the way home. And he had this older car that was not
Yeah.
in keeping with the brand, the personality of the brand. And he came to me and said, Ernie, I need a vehicle that kind of represents this persona. And I'm going to be driving it a ton. So we got him a lifted truck and put graphics on it and stuff. And so two questions. First question is, what was it like to go through this initial process? I mean, this has got to be pretty mind blowing. And then second, how did you transition from Ty Rogalski, the night manager that could turn it off and go home and be with his wife as Ty Rogalski, and then coming home as Nitro? So what was it like for this initial pitch and then that transition?
Well, as anything, I mean, I think a lot of people fear, jumping into a new job, even though you might be really excited about it. You don't know what to expect. I was ready for something different. I had a totally stable gig. I'd still be there to this day, right? Making decent money, doing the status quo. And I remember looking at my wife and saying, sometimes you ask for these opportunities. If you don't take them, who knows what's going to happen? I'm like, this literally could be a 6-month gig. Like I could who knows, right? You know how this stuff goes. Like, oh yeah, I'm just this spokesperson and you're going to dress me up like Halloween and who knows what's going to happen. And I remember just thinking every day is going to be my last, like every day. Like I have no idea, like honestly. And so I just gave it my all because I knew at least at the end, no matter what, which still to this day, and I stand by it, like we can talk about my last weekend, but I gave it everything, it was crazy. So going from me, people talk about that all the time, right? Whether it's a job or anything, like you get totally into something and then how do you turn it off? And I realized I almost couldn't. It was weird because I would go to Winco, grocery store locally. And I mean, not in the beginning for sure, but year 1, year 2, people are like, they would look at me. There was a look and it was like, here I am picking out tomatoes to make like homemade spaghetti sauce. And people are like, wait, I know you, but they didn't know me. And then some people clicked. And so that's when we started talking. I'm like, dude, I got to be in character all the time. Now, granted, I love Halloween, so I love dressing up. But this was like down to the brand. Like, don't ever stop at another gas station. Don't ever get caught. Don't ever get caught on Instagram filling up at a Shell station because you're the spokesperson for Maverick, right? Don't ever get caught speeding in the company truck or cutting someone off. Like you are on the clock until you're in the house, doors locked, and someone's not filming, right? So it was hard for a while because that transition was crazy. But I mean, once it caught on, year 3, year 4, it was like, I loved it because I owed it to people. Like I would make their day if somebody saw me and thought, oh, you're that guy. That was what it was. You're the Maverick guy. That's what they would call me, right? They couldn't quite remember Nitro all the time, but it was intense. But I mean, dream job. Like to this day, like best gig I've ever had in my entire life. Like it was just a roller coaster from day one. Like, who are you? What are you doing? And all the way to the end, when people are just celebrating the brand and being a part of that branding and that marketing, dude, it was life-changing because you just realized the effect you can have on people in a personal way, as we'll talk about, I'm sure, like prizes and stuff. And then just for the company, like bringing people together, just because you're this nice guy that people want to say hi to, whether it's, the corporate people on top or, which it's all corporate, but, the people in the main office. And then there's the people working the counter, making the breakfast, no matter who it was, like people are like, oh, that's the Maverick guy. He's a nice guy. He's cool.
Yeah.
So it was great.
One of the things that got my attention, there's 2 specific things that got my attention with you. And that was, the first one was the BMX race in your store that you videoed.
Yeah.
And the second thing was this dedication to the customer. And I heard so many stories before hiring you from you, and never to, by the way, Nitro will never brag about himself, or Ty will never brag about himself, but other people will talk to me about the things that he did that the customer wasn't aware of, that he went out of his way to provide service. And there was, I think, didn't you replace a guy's mirror one time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, okay, tell me about the race and tell me about the mirror.
Okay. So, this was, I think it was 2008 when, like, the whole world kind of collapsed and that sort of thing. I go on record and state that no convenience store in the world suffered from 2008, because I know I was working at one and sales only went up because people wanted their addictions, right? So whether it's your Coke, your Mountain Dew, whether it's your cigarettes, your beer, you're still going to the gas station if you just lost your job, because it's that one moment in that day, that 20 minutes when you can like feel like your whole world's crumbling, but like, hey, I can hold on to this,
And more so when it's crappy. When
Yep,
life is
absolutely.
crappy, that is when you kind of lean into those vices and those moments of joy.
Absolutely. And so we, as a little, so this is going into the bike thing, but basically that year, the corporation I worked for, Nat Maverick, decided that, hey, we're going to cut the Christmas party this year for all the stores. Now, Christmas party was, hey, manager, you take out your employees, have another store cover your store. This isn't like corporate saying, hey, come up for a really nice, 5-course meal. Take them out. You've got like 10 or 15 bucks to go to dinner. That was a Christmas party, right? So we're talking 8 employees. I can't do the math, never have been good at it, but 100, 150 bucks. That's Christmas, right? That's it. Mm-hmm. They said, we can't afford that this year, 2008. And I was just like, that ain't right. That ain't right. So I looked at my employees, who were all really great employees, and I said, hey, I'm going to throw you a little party. What do you guys want to do? And they said, well, we've always wanted to ride bikes in the store. Wouldn't that be cool? And I'm like, wait, what? They're like, yeah, we get some BMX bikes and we move the aisles and we make a course. And I'm like, you realize that we can totally get fired for this, right? Like straight up. And this store was not 24 hours a day. I think we closed down normally during the week, I think 11 or so. So we chose a night. I can't remember if it was a Friday or Saturday night. So whenever the door was closed anyway, everyone came back in, all 8 employees. I told everyone, I said, are you sure? Because like we're all getting canned probably. And they said, we don't care. That's not right what they did. And I said, I agree. I said, all right, well, let's have our party. So we shut the door. We put all these like fake posters over the windows. I mean, it didn't hide anything. People were still coming up because the lights are on a gas station. But it said, hey, we're temporarily closed. We have a flood. My buddy has a flood company. So he brought his flood truck. So it looked like we had a flood going on. So nobody would call. And we moved the aisles. We brought in some bikes. We made some ramps. We cleared out a cooler door so we could jump through it. I mean, it was ridiculous, right? I have video of all this, of course. And it's so funny because like we were there for like 3 or 4 hours. It's like 4 a.m. We like basically we're done. We had a blast. We knocked over some Coke products, but we cleaned it up. We paid for it. No cost besides some electricity. And the best part is we're all cleaning up. We're getting everyone's out. I have to work, like start the store like in an hour and a half. So I'm like up 24 hours a day. And ironically, at 8 a.m., we had a surprise inspection from one of the guys from corporate, just happened to come down to like, and we got like 100% score because the whole store was cleaned up more than it ever had been cleaned up. And I'm just thinking to myself, he's walking around like, did we still leave electrical tape like for the racetrack on the ground? Like, doesn't say a word. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So, but then someone dared me to put it on YouTube. Well, then I'm like, oh, we're really in trouble. But anyway, I talked to I went up to, before I put it on YouTube, I talked to the corporate office. I said, hey, I really want to make a documentary about gas stations. I think it's really cool. I want to submit it to Sundance, which was true. But honestly, I just got him to sign a paper that said, hey, if we film some stuff from the store, I won't get canned for it. Mm-hmm. It was my default, so that if the video ever got to him, then I wouldn't be fired.
Right.
The video did get to him. They thought it was amazing and awesome, but at the same time, they said, you need to take it down. And that was it. That was the only repercussion. And we all just kind of celebrated silently. And that was our Christmas. We called it Bike Night. It was ridiculous. So
I love that. That was one of the things that attracted me. The attitude of like getting out of the box. Thinking differently, and also having the intuition to be able to know where to push it. I mean, because you didn't do anything bad. No one got hurt. I mean, this was not bad. This was really fun. In fact, the Maverick brand that I was trying so hard to create was an extension of that natural ability, that natural sensitivities that you had. So that's number one. This out of the
Yep.
box thinking. Okay, second is like the concern for the one. Tell me about the broken mirror.
So so I was at that convenience store for 8 years. Like I said, it was convenient for me in my kind of rocky situation with my family and I lived really nearby. It was like a block away with my kids and kind of going through a divorce. And it was just a weird time in my life being in Utah for the first time. And like I said, 2008, that's why it all went downhill because I moved up here for that. So, um, I really, after I got my crew established, and I had some of those people for almost 8 years, which is pretty intense, like I would work with their schedule. So my friends were the people I worked with, and we all supported each other. You really get to know somebody at a gas station and their habits, right? Even if they're only coming in, every other day or every day for the most part for 10, 20 seconds, right? So then, of course, as we all do, right? Like, we're sitting behind the glass and we're observing the pumps and we're like, what's that dude's story, right? Like, what's going on? Case in point, ironically, the sister wives, the guy named Cody, we saw him in front of our window with different women kissing different women in different cars on different days. And one day I literally asked the guy, I said, dude, what's going on, man? Like, he goes, I have a show coming out. You're going to see it pretty soon on Discovery. It's funny that you caught me. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, so we got to know Cody. This is good dude, just because I asked, right? So once you start asking people, then you really get to know people. And so this guy would come in and he would park his car. It was really broken down old Dodge or Plymouth. I can't remember, Chrysler. And the mirror was just hanging off. Like, it was just, we've all seen him, right? Flopping on the freeway, right? And he would get it, he'd come in, buy a pack of smokes, smoke a cigarette, and then he would jump in a school bus. No. He didn't jump in the school. We didn't see that part. He would leave his car for like 4 hours. And that's when I was like, we have every right to like call and get it towed and all that stuff. So instead of that, my buddy Davis is like, let's figure out what this guy's doing. Like, what is he doing? And we're interested. And then you find out he jumps in a school bus just in the parking lot, but down the way. We didn't see that. And it was a handicapped school bus, disabled. And so I'm like, okay, this is getting more interesting, right? The more you peel back these layers, you're like, who is this guy? What is it? Like, I'm thinking he's like freeloading our parking spot and leaving his car there all day. And then the school bus driver came in one time without him. And I said, hey, what's the deal with the guy? She goes, oh, he's amazing with kids. He's really trying to change his life. And he comes on the school bus and helps me assist with all the disabled kids.
Oh, cool.
Like 2 or 3 days a week. And I'm just sitting there like, okay, like, I don't even know what to do with this. I'm like tearing up. And because here's my judgment, right? Totally wrong. Nicest guy in the world, trying to do whatever he can. So I said, well, I'm a mechanic guy. Like, I love cars. I love working on cars. I'm like, I'm going to fix this dude's mirror. And my buddy's like, how are you going to do that? I said, it's here like 3 days a week for 4 hours. We know where he's going. He's getting in the school bus. He can't come back early. He's like, well, how are you going to get in the car? I said, well, I'm just going to break in. He goes, what? I said, well, I'll make sure it's trying to open. So I go to a junkyard. I grab the right mirror. The window was always this far down, I think, because he smoked. So we always left it down. So I literally just went in, pushed the button, door opened up, popped the panel out. I'm freaking out, I'm just like, what am I doing? Even though I knew I was doing the right thing, I was doing a wrong thing, but it outweighed the bad in my mind. So I said, let's do it. No different than bike night. So I got it fixed. 20 minutes, like most terrifying 20 minutes of my life. I love doing surprises, but I never like getting caught because I don't want that. I don't care, The guy comes back. We're just sitting there watching, comes in, buys smokes, which is hilarious. I'm just like, and he gets in the car, drives off. Like, no, whatever. A couple of weeks go by. He comes back and he's like, hey, it's like, did you see someone messing with my car when it was here? And I said, no, what are you talking about? He's like, well, because just something weird happened. He goes, something just weird happened. That's all he ever said. And we were just like, nope, don't know. And he's like, oh, do we have cameras? Says, oh, that doesn't work. It totally works. That camera doesn't work. It was just me fixing it. So I don't know whatever happened to that guy, but I hope that I blessed his life that day. Maybe I got him out of a $200 ticket from some cop. I don't know. But yeah, we really got to know these individuals just because we were standing there, for 8-10 hours a day for so many years. You just first name basis, you really get to, it's just that sense of community, right? Which I'm sure anybody working at a convenience store has that. If you're there long enough and you care, you really get to know your people. And it's a cool, I can only imagine. I've never had the experience coming to a convenience store where everyone knew me, but I always thought that would be fun. It's like Norm coming into the bar at Cheers, right? Hey, Norm, like who doesn't want that, So once we got it was like halfway through, man, we just turned it up. Like I'm trying to think of all the stuff. Like I said, this is years ago, but we did so many fun little things for people when we got to know just enough,
You also did a coffee thing. There was a guy that always asked for a coffee, like a special flavor. And
there was
you went out of your way to make sure you had the right coffee for him. And he, like the car driver, he didn't have this big effusive, thank you so much. No. It was more like, oh, business as usual.
Yep.
But that doesn't deter you from still doing those customer service things.
It gives me so much joy to do it. I don't know what it is. I mean, I love the reaction. My wife says this all the time, and I've kind of gotten to that, especially once we get into Maverick stuff. Like, in a way, I do want the reaction. I could care less about the praise. I just want that moment where I'm like, that's awesome. Like, your life has changed. You really appreciate this. And that's like, oh gosh, that's like the best feeling in the world when you can do something nice for somebody. And even if it's just for a moment, change their world or change their life, but especially if it sets them on a course for something else. And you'll never know usually, but sometimes you hear those stories eventually, and they're just, I'm sure teachers go through this all the time, right? Elementary school teachers, like, oh my gosh, because of you, I doubt that'll ever happen for me, but like, I know there's small moments where we did change lives for the better. And that's cool.
That is cool. So now, here's my perspective. I'm seeing a guy like you doing these things on your own volition. The people at the corporate office aren't saying, okay, everybody, we need to increase our service level and our brand perception. So please find ways of adding value to our customers' life. No, you're doing this already. This is intuitive to who you are. But you're also someone who doesn't want to stay on the guardrails of corporate mentality, right?
No,
this is exactly what I wanted, right? And do you remember how hard it was to get HR and legal clearance to get you? I had 3 different meetings over a course of 3 months where I would sit, me and then the attorney and our HR person right across our in-house attorney, saying, this guy is a loose cannon. And I said, that is exactly why I want him, because he will bring the brand to the people. I don't need a person in the office who's doing graphic design and writing up cool stuff. I need somebody who's actually influencing people for good out there, and not just our customers, but our employees. Because that's one of the things that happened too. Because you had an employee's perspective, you knew what it was like to be on the front line. 100%. You were doing it for 8 years.
Yep.
You brought the corporate brand to the people, where oftentimes it's so easy for executives and people at we called it base camp, but in the corporate office, to be absorbed in our self-importance in the office and go, we just don't have time to reach out to the front lines, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you did. And we've had conversations, and I think I got in trouble a couple of times for like, hey, Nitro doesn't come into to meetings. And I'm like, hey, Nitro, if you're in, just pop in. Just for a minute or whatever. I really wanted to empower you to do that. So I got a little bit of hassle for leaving too much of the leash was too long. And I'm like, that is exactly what I wanted. Can you share some experiences as Nitro and people that you may have affected as customers and also employees?
Yeah. Gosh, it was basically almost exactly 5 years. So, I was thinking about this before this meeting because I'm just like, oh my gosh, like what was the most influential one? But they were all different in their own way, and you never know the end story. But I remember one of the first ones we ever did. It was a suit. Yeah, I think it was the first giveaway I had ever. It was Bancroft, Idaho, which is look it up. I mean, you might find it. It's I think the nearest Maverick was like 30 minutes away, but
Mhm. No, hold on,
rural.
hold on. I just want to make sure that people understand. What he's talking about is a sweepstakes program. So part of the Nitro or our loyalty card, we called it the Adventure Club. We had a Nitro card, which was ACH, and then we just had the Adventure Club card.
Yep.
Those two cards fed into a loyalty program. Customers could earn points when they would spend. We called them trail points, of course, because we're adventure. But our customers could earn these trail points and then use them to either as entries to win sweepstakes prizes, or they could use them as discounts or trade them in for like gift cards or food or things like that. So I just want to set the stage here because as Nitro was not just a promoter of the Nitro card, he ended up becoming a brand representative of Maverick in total. And so anytime we would do a sweepstakes giveaway or like someone wins at corporate office, we would find out who the winner is. We'd clear it all up, and then Nitro would go to work in the reveal. So that's what I just want to set that up so people understand. Like you're in Bancroft and go.
Idaho. So somebody had put their trail points in, which is great for, of course, Maverick, because instead of using the discount for free food, they're putting their points in for a chance to win a prize. Now, there's a huge value there, but as usually there's only one winner, right? So just to get someone to put points in for a giveaway was huge, right?
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, everyone's done giveaways and you're like, I don't win anything. Why would I do that? So
Mm-hmm.
we really wanted to highlight in the most real form, like, yes, anybody can win. We are going to find you and we are going to reward you. And so almost the grainier or the more vlog style the video was in the beginning, the better, because it was like, this isn't polished. Look, this dude's crying over here and someone just tripped. It's okay because that's real life, right? So this a lady won. That's all we knew. And then we would, yes, you're right, we'd go to work. It was like, okay, where does this person live? Do we have a contact? Do we call the store? Do they know the person? Which in this case they did. Like,
Because you
oh,
wanted to surprise the person. You
yeah,
wanted
we
to
wanted
surprise
to
the winner.
surprise
You
them.
don't call the winner and say, hey, we'd like to drop off
No.
your prize, because this was an opportunity for us to kind of showcase the excitement that comes from winning something from the
Yes.
Maverick loyalty program. Okay.
Yes, and that's where I didn't realize that I would totally excel, like you said, even though I had already been doing this for years. But in years past, sometimes you just have to call them and say, "Oh, here's your gift card," right? You don't have time for the money, and so it's an investment, right? To get that content and to make it, well, whether it's good or bad, but still to make a decent video. So we called the store, we got a hold of this person. She lives in a small town. The only thing in the town is literally a bar called The Bar. I remember that because I said in the video. And we're just pointing at the sign. And I got one camera guy, and we got I think we had a big check because what she won was a trip for two to the Super Bowl. And I remember thinking, I mean, it's a cool prize. Don't get me wrong. I would love to go to the Super Bowl. Never been, but I'm like, is it really that big of a thing? I didn't know how this was going to go. So everyone that she knew was in the bar. She comes in the morning, I guess, to get her coffee because there's no convenience store there. Like I said, the Maverick's far away. So she would go when she went to work, but this was a non-work day. Comes in the bar. We're holding up, I think the manager was holding up, maybe me, but we're holding up this big banner. It was from Pepsi, said, you just won two tickets to the Super Bowl. Tears, just starts crying. And I'm like, well, I'm fired. What kind of a video is this? Like, this is terrible, right? So I'm just like, manager from Maverick comes in, just hugs her. She's like, it's okay. I'm just like, okay, like, this is awesome. Like, look at the family connection here once again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Comforts her down. She's like, what are you talking about? And this was the moment. I mean, within 30 minutes, the photographer Braden, we realized from then on, never turn the camera off. Like, pretend like it's off, but you keep filming, because those are when the jewels show up. And this is one of those personal situations where she admits that she's been married to her husband, I think 10 years. struggling to make ends meet, never went on a honeymoon ever. They couldn't afford it, and they've never been on a trip anywhere. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, we just gave this person a gift, right? Super Bowl tickets, which I thought, right, whatever, to Phoenix, Arizona, which I grew up in Phoenix. So I'm like, why would anyone go to Phoenix? But she was like, this is the greatest gift she could have gotten, because everything was paid for. They didn't have the money. She got to go to the Super Bowl. Pepsi, I found out later, Pepsi wined and dined them, like took care of them. They're in the VIP box. They met all these celebrities, right? And it was a vacation. She got chance with her husband to celebrate their marriage, So that was the first video. So I was like, okay, we're going to be okay. We can do this, right? I'm in a bar giving away a Pepsi giveaway, and they're just going to the Super Bowl, and I got tears and everyone's happy. So
that's
moments
beautiful.
like that.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, on and on and on. I mean, there's been a miner in Reno, Nevada, who we gave, I think it was another Super Bowl trip actually again. And the wife admits later when she thought the camera was off, not that we put this in the video, but she just hugs me and she's like, I've been through chemo and all these radiations. My husband had to take 2 shifts every day just to support me. Hasn't had a day off in like 5 years. And you're just like, oh my gosh. So once again, that connection of just this prize. Now, if we would have just handed those tickets off, we don't know anything, right? Yeah. I mean, they would have still been blessed. Don't get me wrong. But now I am forever connected to those people, and everyone in that room and everyone in that Maverick, right, that saw that story is now like, oh my gosh, that's so-and-so. And they're good people. We didn't even know their names before, but they won that trip. But man, this is a good dude, and he's helping out his family and his wife. And so just cool stuff. About halfway through the 5 years, we always had this employee win stuff. So employees could win obviously smaller prizes, but they could win stuff. So
because they could, oftentimes in corporate environments, like all employees are excluded. And it was that way at first. But we realized that there are thousands of employees at Maverick, and they are loyal customers. They spend a tremendous amount of their paycheck at a Maverick. They get food, their snacks, their smokes, their beer, all that kind of stuff. Yet they're limited to what they can do to participate in the program. We changed that, but we decided, wait, we can't afford. We decided not to spend as much money. That's probably a better way to say it.
Sure. Yeah.
On the employees, right? They're already getting payments, stuff like that. So now we open it up. We develop prizes for them. So when you sign up for the loyalty card and create an account, you can indicate whether or not you're an employee. When you're an employee, now you get, whenever you spend your trail points on our app or on the desktop, you could get employee sweepstakes prizes. Okay. Just so I want to make sure that's clear.
No, for sure. And that being said too, people need to know, like, almost every Maverick had a TV, playing inside the store. So we, of course, are highlighting all these amazing prizes. We're giving away trucks, boats, whatever to customers. So the employees are seeing that, right? So in a way, yes, they get it, but they're still a little jealous. I'd be too. So when we started doing employee win stuff, they were already drinking the Kool-Aid, right? Because they're like, well, yeah, Nitro's already going to hooking these people. I can win too. And ironically, they actually had a better chance of winning than employees. Totally separate prizes. Once again, let me remind you, they're not trucks and boats, but they were scooters. They were, I think, motorcycles. I mean, smaller prizes, but they had a better chance because there's only 1 in 4,000 employees versus could be millions of customers, right? So they really caught on to it quick. And we had more prizes. They were little stuff, whether it was an Xbox, PlayStation, TVs, maybe it was stereos, maybe
mountain bikes.
What?
Mountain bikes.
Mountain bikes, like that. Mountain bikes, all kinds of stuff. Ski trips, like, we tried to obviously focus it around adventure, and then it just depended on who was kind of sponsoring it. Was it Mountain Dew? What's their brand like? What do they want to do? So I'm trying to think. Probably by the end of this, I'll remember. But oh my gosh, I almost always. I mean, when I showed up at a store, everyone knew me, right? So I was a celebrity in a 2,000 square foot place every time.
Because every store had a TV.
Yep.
And a lot of the content on those TVs were promotions of sweepstakes prizes.
Yep.
They were loyalty, there was a call to action for loyalty, join the loyalty program. There you are again.
Right.
And then also any kind of promotion that was going on with, maybe it's Mars M&Ms, Hershey's, Mountain Dew, Monster, whatever. We would often produce those pieces. We would not get them from Mountain Dew. We would produce those, and oftentimes Nitro was either the voice or the character or whatever that would introduce those things. So you guys have to understand that Nitro is in the world of Maverick was the celebrity. He was the Kim Kardashian of the internet in our world. So, sure. And what was cool is like Nitro would come in and there was no pretense. He's like, I am one of you and I'm with you. And you carried around, I think we gave you stacks of $5 G cards, little gift cards that Nitro would just like hand them out. He'd see something that was cool or see someone in need. He'd give him one of the best investments I think I've made, because it empowered Nitro to do more than just say hello and just say, hey, hi, how's it going? He actually has a way of, we also had those like free coupons for frozen yogurts and sandwiches and cookies and stuff like that. I'm like, this is a great way for an ambassador to drive business and goodwill. So,
absolutely. Yeah. And that $5 gift card, G cards, and the little burritos here and there. I mean, what a simple way. It's so small for these people, like giving, supporting Maverick every day, right? By buying one. It's like, oh, you get one free a year if you happen to run into me. I mean, it was such a small thing, but to them, it was like, I'm sure they remember that moment, As far as employee surprises, though, there were so many. We did so many of those. But yeah, there was a lot of tears, a lot of hugs, a lot of, I'll have to keep thinking about it. But I mean, I would literally sometimes, if I knew that they were working, and it was usually easy to set these ones up, right? Because you knew their shift, you could look it up. So it's like, hey, I'm just going to show up to your, the gas station. Sometimes we would if it was like a big inflatable kayak, we'd literally wait till they were at lunch or before they showed up, blow it up, be in the middle of the aisle, just pretending like we're just kayaking. They're like, what? But they knew as soon as they saw me and their prize, they're like, oh my gosh, this is the best day of my life. I just won something. Just clicked, they knew. Sometimes I just jump on the counter and it didn't matter because everyone knew. They're like, oh, something really amazing is about ready to happen. What's going to happen here?
Yeah. Well, you were amazing. I'm going to switch gears. Gears.
Yeah.
Because I want to learn more about diced cheese too.
Okay.
So the big question is, okay, you were with Maverick for 5 years. Mm-hmm. You became highly skilled at being in front of the camera, very comfortable because it was almost a daily occurrence where you have to be on camera, say something. And I remember the first time we got you in front of the camera, and this is when you and I are trying to discover what is the voice, what's the personality, right? It's like, how do I speak? And I wasn't sure. You weren't sure. We were stumbling through it. But eventually, you got to be very comfortable. How has the role of Nitro influenced your career?
So I really honed in. I see so many brands out there. I see so many really good ideas. And I'm not perfect by any means, but the little small details that really don't take much effort or money to just dial it in and say, this is how we're doing this. We're not going to do it this way. We're not going to be cheap, and we're not going to, forget.
Can you give me an example?
What's the customer experience?
Yeah, give me an example.
Well, for example, I mean, it's so simple. It's like I went to a sushi place 2 days ago. They don't have paper menus, which is fine, but I am a Yelper. I love pictures. I want to know what I'm eating because I'm going off of looks, right? Because I'm not allergic to anything and I'll try anything. And the guy says, oh, we don't have the paper menu. It's fine. I get it with the whole COVID thing. They just haven't replaced it. It's not worth it, whatever. He goes, oh, just scan the thing. So we scan it. First button I hit is a black button and it goes to a blank screen. And I'm like, I'm locked. I'm stuck in your app and I can't even order a sushi roll, right? And then I finally get in there and there's no pictures. And I just looked at the guy. I said, I said, I will not even charge you, man. Just let me come behind the sushi bar for one night. I have an iPhone. It's not that hard. I will take a picture of every roll that's getting dished out and you put it on the menu. It's not hard, man. Stuff like that, right? The user experience for me, I'm talking to you about it right now. I'm just so bummed about it because the food ended up being amazing, but I'm like, why are you not taking it from here to here? what did that cost you? Like a half hour of
Right.
your time? I'm sure you're not, so things like
Yeah.
that, right? So with Maverick and with Nitro, like it was like there are so many details that I learned about marketing being on that amazing team. And like, oh yeah, that matters. That little piece matters. Make sure that's included in there. Like whether it's the graphic or what is that user experience? Like we got to the end where the bad part for users, and it sounds really bad, but somebody wins a Jeep or a truck, and then they have all this taxes involved. Now, granted, we all know that, but it sucks. Nobody wants to pay for that. And so we came up with different ways to like give them a credit, right? To help them towards the end to almost cover the tax. And I know that sounds ungrateful because they just won this prize, they should be happy. But if you're not expecting to win a Jeep and have 10,000 in taxes, you may not have $10,000, right? Like
Yeah.
these are people that are aspiring to win something because they can't afford it themselves, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So that user experience, right? Putting all the thinking about if you won, would there be any negatives? And if there were negatives, can you eliminate them or minimize them?
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the major thing for me. When I, the last weekend, I say, if you want to go into Dice Cheese, like the last weekend I was with Maverick, I mean, it was a full-on 3-day weekend. I went down to KC Highlights. I got invited to this overlanding thing to promote their 75 years down in Flagstaff, Arizona. I did like 3 giveaways. I slept for like 4 hours. My wife was with me. My dog was with me. We went overlanding with these dudes. It was so cool. And the way back, I surprised like 3 different employees at Mavericks coming back south all the way up to Salt Lake. Walked into a meeting and they were like, hey, we're just moving on from the Nitro character. And I was like, oh. And I didn't even have a car to go home. I had the company truck, so I had to take the bus. It was a lot, or not a bus. I took the train and
Oh
I
my
just
gosh.
cried and took some photos. And I was like, texted the team, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what happened, but I'm done. It's just like
Yeah.
boom. But at that moment, or maybe not that moment, but 2 days later, I said, I'm not going to let this ever happen to me again. Like if I'm going to control my own destiny as much as I can, I'm going to do my own thing. And so that I can make those decisions, and if I fail, I fail, who cares? So that's kind of where the whole Dice Cheese thing came up. And I'm like, I'm going to brand my thing as much as everything I've learned from Maverick and being Nitro, do everything I can. If it fails, it fails. It's okay. Like, you move on, but I want to make sure that my marketing's on point.
Yeah.
The packaging's on point. My customer know exactly what they're expecting. And at the end of the day, I'm going to do everything to minimize any negativity towards anything I do going forward, whatever that product is,
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to invent something. I've always wanted to create my own thing. And I just didn't stop until I did it. And, now I've got a bunch more things coming up under that brand label, and it's going to be cool. And it's exciting, but using Maverick for those, that experience for 5 years has really changed my life. Like no matter where I go or what I do, and I try to help people. Like people come to me all the time. They're like, oh, you did it. How'd you do it? And I'm like, well, this is what I did, and think about these things, it's really important to think about what is your consumer looking for and are they going to be happy all the way through the process?
So you basically, one of the things I want to kind of underscore here is
Yeah.
you identify the sticky points, the friction points of a customer's experience.
Yeah.
And then what can you do as a brand, as a brand owner? And it could be in your role, you were a spokesperson, you were a character,
Yeah.
a marketing character. But anybody in the company can identify. You could be the front line. You could be the selling cigarettes. But if you see a friction point in a customer's experience, you're empowered to do something about it. Like, right. And there's corporate policy and stuff like that, but you've always found ways like, look, whether or not I have to get specific permission for it, the right thing is always to make sure the customer has a really, really good experience, and you'll fight for it. I remember having you say in a meeting, hey, Ernie, these guys are, these winners are taxed with, many of them won't even be able to keep the prize that is so cool. They'll sell it because they need the cash and they can't even pay the taxes. I go, okay, let's come up with a way to either add value to the prize so they can have a cash, or teach them how to use their prize as collateral to get money to pay for taxes and then sell it later. But anyway, there's all the different kinds of strategies. The point is, find the friction points that the customer's having and eliminate them or minimize them so the customer has a bigger, smoother experience with you, because where there's friction, they're going to go somewhere else. But if you take those blocks, that's the water always runs downstream. And if you keep taking those blocks out of the way, it'll come faster and more frequently.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
Great lesson.
We even came up towards the end there too. We realized, well, not at the end, but we realized one of the friction points was like, hey, if you win a wave runner, you have to come to Salt Lake City to get it. Well, what if you live 10 miles from the Canadian border in Idaho, which is a true story, and you don't have a truck? That's a friction point for those people, right? Mm-hmm. So we learned almost always deliver it to them. It's gas for us, but on the way, like obviously I can bless lives the whole way, and you can, with employees and say hi to people and, do, the marketing on the side. So ironically, the friction of that and just delivering a prize to them so that they can, makes it easier for them, ended up blessing the company anyway, because look at all the positive that went along on the way. So usually those friction points, once you figure those out and figure out a solution, it ends up being a huge benefit, way more than you ever thought it would be.
So the other thing that you learned in this process is, despite the fact that you're crushing it as Nitro, the company can change directions. And you're like, I don't want to ever be in a place where my very best efforts, and you were good at it too. This wasn't just something that you were struggling with. No, it is a well-oiled machine.
Sure.
You weren't a corporate player, in the corporate cog, which is why you were awesome. But I think it's one of the reasons you were let go too. The change of direction, right?
Right.
Because they never hired somebody else to be that person. So when you decided, okay, I'm going to do my own thing, tell me about the story of discovering or inventing diced cheese. By the way, love the freaking name. And I love the names of the game, the game, when you roll the dice.
Gouda, leaning tower of cheese. Queso roll again. Yeah, that's fun stuff. All those little details, it's kind of funny. My inner child just kind of came out. I'm like, oh, this is the cheesiest game ever, so why not just make it as cheesy as possible? That's interesting. So it was a little dark for me for a while because I was trying to figure out what to do. I couldn't find a job because, like you said, I was kind of a well-oiled machine. I kind of put myself into this really weird thing. It's so funny because everyone's like, oh, dude, everybody, you'll get a job. I said, well, I reached out to everybody. I did not get a job doing anything similar to that. So COVID hit. I sold my house in Utah. My wife and I were about ready to buy a Sprinter van and just do the van life thing for a while because I was so lost. I didn't know what to do. We ended up in Idaho with some friends, and then COVID hit. So then we got stuck with them in Idaho, which was awesome, for like 4 months. We just had my birthday and we were revisiting those videos. It was pretty funny, like having a COVID birthday, but I knew I was going through a program called 75 Hard, which I don't know if you've heard about, but man, that got me out of my situation, my negative situation, because Andy Frisella, I think is how you say his name. He's just like, this will change your life because you're getting into habits every day. It doesn't matter how many things you have to do. You have to get these things done, which is life, right? And most of the time we just say, I'll do it tomorrow. But in 75 Hard, you can't. You don't do it, you fail, you start over. And I don't like to fail. So all 4 of us during COVID did 75 Hard. We all successfully passed. Drinking a gallon of water was the hardest challenge for me every day. I'll admit that right now. That was worse than anything else. But in that mindset, it made me focus on, what do I want to do? What am I going to do? I have this time. What am I going to do? And I'm like, I'm going to invent something. This is my time. I've got nothing else going on except for 75 Hard, which is hard enough to do, but I am going to create a business. I'm going to do this. And I literally knew I wanted to make a game because I figured I couldn't fail because it was so small. I don't know how technology works, right? I can't make a smartwatch or something like that. I didn't even want anything that had a siren or a beeper. I'm like, I'm going to make a game, man. And everyone's in COVID, so they're stuck. So this is perfect. People are playing games. We were. So that's why I thought about it. And I had some dice. I bought some dice and I started rolling it. I started gluing them together, trying to figure out, okay, this is kind of silly. I tried to make a long dice, like a big stick die. I don't know what I was doing. I was just doing whatever I could. And then on my anniversary, we were in Park City. We went, I don't know, we just got away for the weekend, I guess. And I knew I wanted to make a dice game. I woke up at 3 a.m. and it was one of those dreams where you have it and you're like, I just kept saying, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. I was thinking about dice and someone sent me the cheese emoji on my phone. And I realized the holes look like dice holes. And I thought, can I make dice that looks like cheese? I know it sounds really silly now. We went to Walmart. I bought a Baby Bell cheese, right? I cut it into a wheel and I threw it on the table, right? And some of them are, yeah, it's cheese, it's stuck, right? But one of them, like the Leaning Tower, like as you know, or whatever, but it landed like this, right? And it landed and it kind of did this thing. And I was like, we got a game, man. We got a game. I don't know what it is, but we got a game. So I still have that Baby Bell cheese. It's really hard. It's in my closet. But
is it stinky?
No, it's not stinky. I don't think so. I don't think Baby Bell is like the purest cheese ever. Like it just doesn't stink. I don't know. But of course, you bring up stinky. I always wanted to make it smell like cheese, and then I realized cheese doesn't smell good. Nobody wants that. Which I found out later when I asked all my customers. They're like, "Please don't do that, man. Like, don't do that. Like, the cheese smells like old socks. Like, why would you want stinky cheese?" I'm like, no, because the company is called Smelly Games, so every game I wanted the smell associated with it. But anyway, so yeah, so we played. It took like 6 months to just keep rolling this dumb Baby Bell cheese, and thanks to a 3D printer, which is so easy now, and plastic, I started getting the gameplay together. So that's how it all kind of came about. It was a dream that I remember the next day. We were playing pickleball. I did forget about the dream. We're playing pickleball. My wife serves it to me. We're doing 75 hard. So you have to exercise for 45 minutes, so you can't stop. So we're sweating. We're playing pickleball. And I go, geez, that looks like dice. And my wife's like, what? You're so weird. And I said, we can't stop. Keep exercising, but remind me later. That's how it started. So as soon as we were done playing pickleball, I was like, I got to show you this. And that's when we went to Walmart. So yeah, that's how Dice Cheese came about.
Dude, I love it. How's things going? How's things going with the business?
Good. Have I made anything? Absolutely not. But that's okay. I sell a lot of it. All the money is just going back in. So I'm not paying myself. I have a partner, a good friend, back from the old gas station days, that just always wanted to do something with me. And so I said, hey man, I'm going to do this. You want in? He's like, yeah, anything you're in, dude, I'm in. Cause he goes, I know you will make it successful. So, we're doing, I think we did like, I don't know how much we do, but like around Christmas time on Amazon, we're doing like $6,000 a month. You know what I mean? And then, now we do, I don't know, $2,000-$3,000 a month, but month over month, we have 50% increases. So obviously we're on the trail.
Nice.
Anything I've learned about Dude Wipes, I don't know if you've ever interviewed Sean, but you need to get him on here. Dude Wipes, I just saw his LinkedIn today. He's like, first 5 years, everyone made fun of us for, trying to wipe butts, right? And you'll never make it in the toilet paper business. Now they're doing like $1.5 billion, right? Because it just takes time. You got to stick with it. You cannot give up. You just keep putting money into it, to keep your advertising going, everything. So no, totally happy. Everything I've learned about products and everything I've read, once you can sometimes have that amazing product right off the gate, but it takes 2 to 3 products under your brand, and then all of a sudden it takes off. And you think that it would totally discount your first one, but in reality, you're bringing a whole new market share in, and then they see your original product, which was genius, but they just never saw it before because they weren't connected. So that's why this year I'm pushing as hard as I can to have 2 more products out by next Christmas, just to create that brand in the game.
How can people get a hold of you or learn more about Dice Cheese?
Dicecheese.com. Luckily that was totally available. So that's really easy. LinkedIn's pretty easy. Pretty simple. Like if you look up cheese game or cheese dice on the internet, I'm pretty sure I win. So so far I am the only one in that space.
Dude, you rock. You rock.
So
I loved my relationship with you. What you did with Maverick was nothing short of brilliant. You added so much value. You took a very simple role that could have been mailed in. What I mean by that is you show up at work, you do the promo video, you go back to your desk, and you wait for the next promo video to do. That could have been that was kind of like what was expected. Yeah. But you took it to the next level because you cared about you care about people. And so I want to follow everything that you're doing. I wish you all the success with Diced Cheese. Thanks for being here with me, man.
Yeah, no, it's been great, man. It's fun to look back when you've put in a lot of hard work, but it's so easy as an individual to kind of forget that. And you're like, oh yeah, I just did that thing. And then you bring it up and you're like, yeah, we did that.
That was awesome.
That thing was awesome, you know? And that thing got me here. And what's this going to get? You know, it's just stay positive. Anyone out there just trying to do it in the entrepreneurship world, like you can do it. Like you can do it. You just can't stop. You just got to keep going, you know? And if you need to take the easy road, which I did, make the simplest thing just to succeed and get through that, do that. It's okay. Like you don't have to, you know, go right out of the gate, you know? So just do something, get that confidence, build yourself up, and then, you know, every day put a little bit of time into it. That's all you got to do. So
great advice, man. Thanks again for being with me. I'll talk to you next time. Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ernie.
Awesome. Hey, if you like this podcast, be sure to mash that subscribe button and send me an email, me@earnburn.com. And if you want to know more about me, visit earnburn.com. Easy peasy. See you next time.